I can't wait to hear about it. William Curry, aka Boxcar. How you doing, man?
Hey man, how are you? I'm doing
I-
great.
I'm great. I'm great. Give us an intro, William. Tell us who you are, brother.
Man, I'm just a normal everyday guy who's pretty much devoted the last decade or so of his life to the long distance backpacking and to the hiking community. And now, transferring over into the running community, primarily the trail running community and ultra running community, but still never, given up on my roots of long distance backpacking. Is kind of gearing more towards like FKTs and stuff now, as opposed to just hiking. Trying to
Yeah.
just hike faster now. I think
Oh, so you're sort of crossing over into the ultra world now.
I am slowly,
Nice.
slowly crossing over into some longer races, bigger days type stuff.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, yeah, yeah.
Do you have races on the calendar or anything specific you're looking at? I mean, I'm an ultra runner, and
I,
that's most of our listeners probably are as well.
Nice. I do have a few races this year lined up for 2022. I have the Whispering Pines 12-hour in Inverness, Florida. It's a race that I've done for the last 4 years or so. And then I have the Damn Yeti 55K
Yep.
coming up in Damascus. And I have the Sugar Badger. As soon as it goes on sale,
Huh.
I'm planning on registering for it, and that's all I have confirmed this year. But
Cool.
we'll see how my body does, and how I adjust to the 12K. That's the first one in February coming up here. So however it adjusts to that.
Nice.
I'd like to knock an FKT out. I was looking at the Pinhoti this year,
Ah,
as maybe trying to do it, and that's a pretty tough one to beat right now. But
for
I
sure.
think it's like 5 days or something. So,
Yeah.
there's an FKT, a smaller FKT on the radar, whether it be the Pinhoti or the Benton Mackay Trail, something
Okay.
like that. Trying to knock one of them out in a sub 5 day.
Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. My last podcast guest, I'm talking about a podcast that hasn't been released yet. I think it comes out next Tuesday. Her name was Tara Dower, and she just set an FKT on the Pinhoti Trail like 2 weeks ago. And she's
Oh,
also done
wow.
the Benton Mackay Trail as well. So you might have to dig
Wow.
into that
Now,
podcast.
I might have listened to that on Spotify or something the other day, and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute!" I was like, "This is cool."
That's cool, man.
Yeah, and that's the time that I'm talking about. I think she was like sub 5 days or something,
Yep.
and I was like, it was primarily like I go into FKTs as like a personal challenge,
Uh-huh.
and not necessarily to try to beat anyone's time, but try to beat my best time and just give it my 100%. And if I do it in sub 5 days, then great. If I do it in 6 days, it's the same to me, really.
Yeah, all that matters is your own personal goals and beating your own time anyways, trying to beat other people's time. It's all arbitrary. It's fun. It's good competition, but what's it really mean in the long run? In 100 years, who's going to care? But
Yeah, sure.
yeah, man.
And it's all just fun anyways. It doesn't, I mean, I look at it like anybody who just gets out there even for a day hike is accomplishing something. It doesn't have
100%.
to always be an FKT or ultra marathon. You get out there and put one foot in front of the other. You're doing a lot more than a lot of people. So,
Yeah, 100%.
you know.
You mentioned the Sugar Badger. Are you friends with that race director, Scott Coomer?
I think we're social media friends.
Okay.
Have messaged a little bit back and forth with each other. Never have met him personally or anything. It's all
Okay.
just online social media type stuff. But he listens to the podcast from time to time. I watched the Camille show not long ago.
Oh, yeah.
With Camille.
Yep.
And I followed them for a couple of years. So
For sure.
you know, it seems like the races, I missed the Sugar Badger. I was it canceled last year. I wanted to really do it, and I was kind of pumped on it because I think as far as ultras go, it's not as challenging as say like Leadville or something, you know. And I mean, as far as ultras go, and I'm still definitely back of the pack kind of guy. Some DNFs in there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anything that's, you know, relatively on the easier side of the spectrum, I'm usually all over it. Just, you know, just as I grow as a runner, you know, and transition from a hiker over to the running community. You know.
Yeah. How did this all start for you, man? Like, where did you grow up? And let's just start from the beginning and work our way through your whole story, man. Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in a small town in Florida, about an hour north of Tampa, the Crystal River, Homosassa Springs area. Like I said, it's in Citrus County. It's about an hour north of Tampa. And I grew up there, had a, you know, a normal childhood, nothing crazy. We'd go out partying after high school, do the standard small town stuff. Eventually left home, you know, after high school. Everybody in my class generally went into the Army or somewhere like that, and I decided that I wanted to go follow the Great Cadet around. So followed the Cadet around for a bit, you know, got mixed up into pretty wild times. Found myself out in San Diego, California, and this is all prior to thru-hiking or anything. This is many, many years ago. Like I didn't know anything about thru-hiking. But I found myself in San Diego with a pretty nasty heroin habit and, you know, an alcohol problem that has tried to kill me ever since, really. Got out of jail in San Diego and knew that the only way I was going to live was that if I left California, and the only way I had to leave California was to walk out of there. And that's what I did. I walked down to San Diego with no formal training or, you know, anything like unbeknownst to me that I was actually doing essentially a long distance hike, you know.
Right.
Wound up in Ashland, Oregon. And that was the first time that I'd ever met like people actually through hiking. And I was just amazed by it. You know, I'm like, wait a minute, there's this subculture of people that do this, you know. I'm like, you know, I was used to a background of riding freight trains around, panhandling and stuff like that for dope money. And it was pretty frowned on in towns. It wasn't real acceptable. And I'm like, hey, you know, you guys are walking from town to town and you guys, they're okay with it. They're not running you out of town. And
Right.
so from that point on, I just, you know, I actually did a southbound PCP hike, from another thru-hike, but from Ashland. In 2012, I was sleeping in the park in Ashland and wound up saving up some cash, buying some, you know, middle of the road hiking gear. Then I wound up hiking south on the PCT and learning as much as I could about thru-hiking and about this whole subculture of thru-hiking. It was just, I was just engulfed with it. I was amazed by like, wow, how come I've never even heard of this? How did I never not know anything about this?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, after, you know, I was walking back towards, you know, my downfall essentially, and I knew that. So I'd come up the trail and before I got into my danger zone there, and I wound up in Utah. I worked out in Utah. I'm a cook by trade, so I'm actually a professional chef by trade. There's work everywhere. I went to work at Park City or somewhere out there, one of the resorts out in Utah, and you know, surrounded myself with other people that, you know, I was like, oh man, I just like the PCT. Okay, now I'm one of these guys. And, you know, and that's how I spent, that was, I think, the beginning of my recovery process. That was really the beginning. And there was some bumps in the road along the way. It hasn't always been easy. But that was the beginning of my recovery process. When I was out there, regardless of what trail it was or what weather conditions were, what my bank account looked like, I was always content and I was always humbled enough to just be there. You know, that I never felt like I needed that drink of alcohol or that shot of dope or whatever my fixation was for that week. I never needed that because I had a sunny day after it'd been raining for a week. I had a warm day. I had a flushing toilet or a can of cold soda, you know? It was just the humbleness of it that really, like, I never needed anything else. I was there. I mean, and I try to live that way today, you know, like, I mean, I've got, you know, my regular job, and I've got a million other things going on, but I still try to just live in that. Wow, I woke up today. That's a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for somebody like my background, that's a blessing for me, because it's like, you look at my graduating yearbook in small town Florida, and none of them folks are around me.
Mm.
You know, none of them people I graduated with, they're all gone. You know, and I'm talking 85, 90% of them are gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I really am lucky. I should be so appreciative for this. And that's ultimately what led me to start Trails in Recovery.
Yeah.
Just to try to shine that light and to try to show that a little bit to people that might be in dark places, you know.
100%. And a lot of people are in dark places nowadays. You know, addiction is just going up. You know, there's more and more suicides nowadays. It's just getting worse out there as far as the mental health and addiction world. Unfortunately, people are overdosing in astronomical numbers with this fentanyl stuff now.
Yeah.
Stuff is so bad. And you know, it's not the hardcore junkie living under a bridge that's overdosing. It's the weekend party goer that is not accustomed to this sort of a lifestyle, and people are just overdosing like mad. But going back to your story, so you feel like it was the Pacific Crest Trail that really sort of helped you in your recovery and healed you, or was it that first initial walk out of San Diego?
Well, you know, I think the first initial walk was out of knowing. You know, I had spent upwards of a month in jail, and I knew mentally, like, being in jail, you know, I didn't have any way to get any drugs in jail, so I did that in jail, knowing that if I didn't leave there, that I was going to die. I was like, I'm going to die if I don't need to. And so I think that first walk was really out of scaredness, out of just knowing this was going to happen to me. And I don't think it was until the PCT, until I met up with the other thru-hikers, and I started learning a little bit about the community. I don't think it was until that point that I really felt like, wow, there's another mission here. There's something, you know, this community, and I mean, you know, like the hiking community and the running community in general, it's just a very strong family of people, you know, and it's amazing. And I think that was the PCT hike that really did that, and stopping at the little places along the way, and just the people that we met coming from like one side of the spectrum, being a train hopper, you know, panhandler, just vagrant, who's going to another side of the spectrum and being actually like welcomed in towns and such, you know, and like people wanting to talk to you and learn your story instead of running away from being scared, you know, because they're afraid you're going to stab them or something. You know. So yeah, I think I guess to answer the question, I think it was a decent thing of just meeting that first group of largers back in the day that really kind of set it off.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, going back into your history, you know, you said that you've done some train jumping back in the day, and I've talked to other people that have done the same thing, and I'm sort of accustomed to that lifestyle. And you know, people are out flying signs and panhandling and looking for money and just jumping on a train to the next stop. And I'm guessing that there's sort of a community in there. And then following the Grateful Dead around, that's another community in itself. So it sounds like community is sort of big to you. Like when someone accepts you, you know, you sort of fall into that. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think to some degree you're correct on that. Definitely that. I mean, who doesn't? You know, I mean, who doesn't really want to feel valued? You know,
Oh, of course.
I guess. You know, and luckily, like the hiking community was a lot more positive than the other two aforementioned communities. You know, they were both the same. I still love the Grateful Dead. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great music. That lifestyle though can be, and for me it was, anyways. I can't speak for everybody, but both of the lifestyles were very good for mental, to my well-being and to my health. You know, and it wasn't until the hiking community was it really something that wasn't detrimental to my self-destruction. It was something that was, you know, something that came positive out of darkness. So
I know that's the funny thing. I mean, I'm in the recovery world too. And, you know, someone can be falling down drunk on the streets and everyone turns their head and says, "Oh, gross, don't look at that guy. Let's walk away." But you could be falling down completely wasted on the trail and everybody's going to help you up and pat you on the back and say, "Come on, man, you can do it." And there's some similarities there, but it's a complete 180. It's not, you know, it's obviously a different lifestyle.
Yeah, it totally is. And there's you know, there's still so much stigma that evolves around, you know, around addiction that it's still, I mean, you know, it's still frowned upon. And with the research that I've done, with the help of others, you know, I found that a lot of addictions, if not all addictions, come from some kind of mental health issue. I've met with, you know, healthcare professionals that have done extensive research on mental health and found that a lot of alcoholics or drug addicts, there's all mental health issues back there somewhere. And, you know, when you start delving into the thru-hiking community or the long distance hiking and the ultra running community, there's a lot of humans out there too. There's a lot of like really big names in the community that have all ran from something, that have all, you know, chased something that are doing great now. They're doing amazing things because of the same, you know, the same thing. I think that they come from mental health issues. I mean, who in their right mind wants to run 100 miles through the desert? So,
Yeah. So you mentioned that you had a pretty decent upbringing. How do you go from a decent upbringing to riding trains? Was it just a form of rebellion, or do you think that was the start of some mental health issues, or how did that go?
I think, you know, I think I lost two really dear friends back when we were right at about the driving age, that 16-year-old range. And my mom likes to attribute some of my anxiety issues and stuff like that with losing them. It was a pretty rough year for me. So Mike and Dave, I lost them, and just kind of when I lost them, I was like, I don't want to be in this town. There's nothing here for, and we're talking now. Now I appreciate it. Back then I was a young kid. I was ready for the big city. I mean, we used to drive down south to Tampa to go skateboarding and stuff like that because there was just nothing in our town. It was a nothing town, and there was just something about the big city that drew my attention. And so, at the first chance I could, I mean, I was already kind of in the, hippie phase, I guess, if you will, where I was listening to the Doors and Pink Floyd and stuff like that. And, first sign of like the Grateful Dead came up, and I was like, man, I hitchhiked down to Tampa and just never looked back. I spent, the better part of 3 seasons just following them around, making grilled cheeses and stuff, and indulging in different things that one might do on the dead tour. And I did that for a while, and I met a girl. She was a train girl, and she said, "You want to ride a train?" And I said, "Well, yeah, you're a pretty girl. Of course, I want to ride a train with you." And and she liked to indulge in other harder substances. And actually, she said, "You want to try this?" And I said, "Sure, I want to try this." And just so happened I liked that a whole lot. So, and that's really what started it all. Essentially from about the age of 7 or 18, give or take, right at like young adulthood, and I spent the better part of my 20s on into my early 30s living like that. So
that girl was your introduction to heroin?
she was without a doubt. Yeah. Now I'd always drank. Like socially beer, high school parties at the Keggers or whatever. I actually never really knew, because I was so far into the opiate world, how bad of an alcoholic I really was. And, I think opiates were going to be the quick way out. Whereas in alcohol, like my late 20s was really the thing that was gonna kill me. That was the thing that was putting me in the hospital every week. They were pumping my pancreas and my liver because it wasn't processing. All of that was attributed, I think, to both the concoction of different substances. But alcohol, I never really realized it until I stopped drinking every day, and my anxiety went through the roof. And I'm like, wait a minute, okay, I haven't been a junkie in a long time, but I'm still an alcoholic. I need to change this too. This is going to be the one that. And I had a doctor tell me that at one of my hospital stays. He said, "This is what's going to happen to you, and this is how it's going to happen, and it's not no fun. And I don't care, because you have to want to stop." And I was like, this doctor's telling me that I'm drinking myself to death. And, I'm like, he's not pulling any strings right now. He's telling me exactly what's going to happen to me, and that he doesn't care regardless, because, and I was like, a pretty good slap in the face, a good wake-up call to go, wow, I need to stop this.
Yeah, totally. So walk me through a typical day for you back in those days, between riding trains and following the dead, and, you're partying a lot, drinking, doing drugs. Walk me through just a typical day for you back in those days.
Oh, wow. So on the dead, there was always, in the dead days, I would refer to it as the dead days. It was, we were always hustling, making money. just selling grilled cheeses or, whatever, homemade jewelry and stuff. And it wasn't so much hard drugs back then, but I'm sure they were there, but it was more experimenting with psychedelics and stuff like that than it was like after like shooting morning. But we would just, it was 12 or 15 of us on the bus, and we'd get up every morning. We'd stay, on lot, pay $20 for parking or whatever, and stay the night on lot. Take off to the next show after a day or two, and then, take turns driving, and that was pretty much it. If we made enough money, we'd get a hotel, get a shower. If there was like a week or so off in between shows, then we'd go to a campground or a national park type thing. When I got into train riding and got into riding freights all around, it was more so wake up every day, have a couple beers, hopefully have a wake up. And then, I'll just use an example of like in Chicago, we'd take the L, or the blue line, we'd take it down to Aurora or go out towards Joliet, away from the city, and find, a prominent area, suburb or what have you, and we would hold cardboard signs up, and make our money for the day, get back on the same L to, $3 or $4, take it back into the city and do our stuff, live on that as long as we could, and sleep beneath the bridges and back on the street corner wherever we could. And that was pretty much a routine for the better part of a decade. It was, whether it be in like sometimes we would, if we get off the train in a city that we knew was not a big city, not a Chicago or a San Francisco or whatever, and then we'd try to fly that city, we'd try to fly that city. And if we could make a few $100, then we take that few $100, take it on into a big city where we could get the cheaper drugs. And that's what we did for a long, long time.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it every day. There was no, everyday thing that you did every day just to get better.
Were you still in contact with your family at this point?
Not as nearly as much as I am now.
Sure.
It was usually involved around calling from a jail or calling from a hospital, or maybe not even, maybe somebody calling from the hospital,
right,
saying, we got to find this kid. We got to find this kid's next to 10, because he ain't going to make it another week.
Yeah. Yeah. How many times do you think you ended up in jail or a hospital?
Oh, geez. If, hospital was that, I can't count the times I overdosed from. A jail, there's stupid misdemeanor stuff, probably 50 times, 60 times.
Yeah.
Shoplifting and, drunk in public, there's a lot of them. Possession, possession of controlled substance, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But quite a bit, a lot of times I was in and out of jail. So,
it's a rough life, man. It's a rough life, but
really,
but I'm out here on the outside looking in and just listening to your story and hustling around for extra money so that you can keep your adventure with the dead or keep train hopping, moving, doesn't sound that far off from being on the trail and just sort of like getting the miles in for the day, getting some food at the end of the trip, obviously there's no drugs and alcohol involved, but it sounds sort of similar. Like you don't have a warm house with plumbing and a cold refrigerator. You're out there kind of roughing it on this mission.
Yeah. And people, like my mom and stuff, they said, my brother's like, oh, it isn't that much different for you. And I'm like, well, it, it is like in your aspect where you're like, you're roughing it every day. You're just trying to get through the day, putting the miles in. Obviously, I don't fly cardboard anymore. I'm working on its job now, but it's still living minimal. So I think even back in the days, even though I didn't know that I was living so minimal, that it still is transferred over, I think, to some degree, where I'm still just pretty content with the backpack and a trail in front of me now, you know. Like you said, there's no drugs and alcohol out. I mean, it's, you know, I'm over here on the AT now. And you know, it's been known as like a party trail. So, and you see that, but you see a lot of people that are kind of doing exactly what I was doing back in 2012. You know, you see people that are out here searching. You know, they're out here, and I guess when I see them people and they're searching, I try to pull them away from that party scene a little bit. You know, I try to say, hey man, let's you know, let's hang out, let's do this. You know, you don't. This is a cool hostel, and try to show them a hostel that maybe isn't necessarily a party related hostel, or something, you know, not pulling business away from anybody or anything. Just I try to be that clutch for them there of going, oh, I don't, you know, Ol Boxcar doesn't drink anymore. We don't have to party it up. We can hang out and have fun and listen to the Dead still and do whatever, you know.
Totally.
And you don't have to get blacked out wasted on the trail and you know, lose our gear or whatever. You know?
Yeah. No, you can actually get up and hike in the morning like you're supposed to do, rather than be hungover. You said you're on the AT right now. Are you actually doing a through hike right now, and you're stopped at a hostel, or?
No. So I hiked in 2018. I hiked northbound on the AT.
Okay.
My buddy owns a hostel here, called Soft Hostel. We give them a little shameless plug.
Yeah.
But he owns it in Hampton, Tennessee. And I came off the trail here for a leg interview, and I was here about 2 weeks and just fell in love with eastern rural Tennessee.
Oh, cool.
And I actually got the opportunity. So I stayed there for, you know, a couple of weeks. I had the opportunity to come back during COVID, or right prior, pre-COVID, like late 2019, as an executive chef at a resort up here.
Oh, cool.
So I jumped on it. I was like, it's in the hiking community. It's right on the AT. It's a resort, so they're paying me pretty good. And, you know, I did that up all through COVID. We stayed open, surprisingly. Now this year we shut down about 4 months early. So, because we couldn't staff, we just could not stand, you know, small town Tennessee. And I was kind of back at square one going, man, okay, well, you know, I've got into my savings, and these are my goals that I really have been working towards for myself as far as financially goes. And I said, what am I, you know, I said the resort closed now, and they're in the process of selling. And another buddy of mine out here in East Tennessee who owns another hospital said, man, I need a cook to help me with the southbound season. He's like, free room and board, and, you know, this is what I could pay you.
Perfect.
And I just need, you know, and he's like, I could really use you know, somebody of your caliber on next year when the bubble of hikers come through. And I said, well, you know, there's a few races that I'm going to do. So as long as we square that away, I said, there's, you know, 4 or 5 races I want to do. And there's an FKT that I want to do an FKT in 2022. I said, as long as we're square on that, then I'll help feed hikers. I was like, I love feeding the hikers. And, you know, so that's where I'm at. We had actually talked about maybe like diving into the world of race directing a little bit, maybe putting on. I've started a couple groups around here in East Tennessee for like East Tennessee trail runners. And there's just beautiful mountains, tons of great trails. And there's no like little groups of people that get together on, Monday afternoons and go for a long run. There's nothing like that. So I said, let's grow this small rural community. Maybe we could put a race on in the future, or do something like that. I don't know anything about race directing, but, start poking around a little bit for 2022 and see what we can find.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Going back again just a little bit. I'm thinking of like your walk out of San Diego. Like you had just gotten out of jail. You knew that if you stayed in town, you were going to die there. And you say that because that's where, I'm speaking for you, but I'm guessing that you knew where the drugs are in town. You knew where the people were in town that are going to get you into trouble. And so I have to flee this town just to save my own life. And so as you're walking to Oregon, I mean, how far is that, first of all?
Oh, it's 1,100 miles or so. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and that was your
first
big hike. And so
my first walk.
yeah, I'm just like picturing you like with a shitload of steam to blow off, like a lot of steam to blow off for this long walk. Are you like active? Are you still using while you're on this walk? Are you looking for some sort of recovery or a program? Did you ever use a program? What was that initial walk like?
No, so my reasoning the day, and I had thought about this probably the last week or so I was in jail, like trying to get my mindset like going. All I got to do is jump on the border to Tijuana, and I do all the, I knew how to make money. Mm-hmm. And I said, this is, honestly, what I did was I just prayed and I said, I'm gonna die if I stay here. I don't want to die. I don't. And so I left down there, and I didn't move. I was tempted a few times when I got up around like San Luis Obispo. Spent a few days in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, just kind of resting up and resupplying. I guess resupplying what I call resupplying now. But never, I always knew mentally that like if I used again, that it was just going to be a big vicious cycle, that it wasn't going to be, I'm going to have one hit, or I'm not the guy that can have a couple beers after work. And, I'm the guy that has a couple beers and you find him a month later 4 states away. And that's the same with the opiates. I knew mentally that if I stopped somewhere and I popped a bag of dope, that I was going to wind up in that place. It just wouldn't have been San Diego, San Francisco, or San Luis Obispo, or anywhere up and down the coastline there that I was on. It would have been the same scenario, and I knew that I might not get another chance. So I had already had that mindset that no matter what, I wasn't going to use opiates to do.
Were you drinking at that time?
I was drinking still.
Okay.
I was still drinking, so I was an alcoholic still.
Sure.
And no treatments. Now I have in more recent times just gone and spoke at different treatment facilities and different like Celebrate Recovery meetings and some different churches and stuff that focus on recovery. Kind of gone and gave my testimony and shared that with people, but I've never physically went through like a 12-step or anything like that. So I was just always on the move like that. I've just always been on the move, like never really settled down and took roots in anything. But and that was still going on, I guess. Now to this
Sure.
day, it's still kind of.
I don't think that 12 steps are necessarily the way for everybody. I think that it's an avenue, and I think that it's very helpful for people, but I don't think it's the way for everybody. But I'm curious if you like avoided it for a reason. Did you have a certain aversion to like working the 12 steps or?
No, not at all. I think I just feel exactly like you do, that it probably, and I don't know because I never tried it, that it probably wasn't at that time something that would have just appealed to me. It wasn't
Sure.
something that now I had tried, and AA, or, and NA, it works for a lot of people, and it's a great thing. I'm glad it's there. The few AA meetings I went to, I honestly don't think that it really did anything for my mental health or my mental clarity. Like, I left there worse than I was when I went, and that's just me personally.
I've been there.
And I'm like, nah, this isn't, I don't think I'm wired that way, where it's something for me. And it's something for a lot of people, and it's an amazing thing, but it's not my thing.
Yeah.
And so I, like I said, I agree with you that it's not wired for everybody. It's
For sure.
And that's yeah, that's just where I'm at with it. But
the trails are your thing. That is
yeah.
what it sounds like keeps you sober. So like, what happens when you're having a rough day now? Like, if you're having a rough day and say thinking about picking up a drink or thinking about using or something like that, do you just go out for a long walk, or what does that look like now?
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head there. I used to, like, if something happened, a traumatic moment or just a bad day, we all have it. My instinct would be to run down to the corner, get a 12-pack, and pound them away, whatever. Now it's to lace up my sneakers and go for a run, go for a walk, and then I find very, very rarely after I go for a 2 or 3 mile walk or a run or a jog or whatever, that I come back and that little problem that I was going to make a huge problem is gone.
Yeah.
I put on my earphones, put on some music, go walk, go run.
Yep.
And I come back and it's gone. That problem's gone.
Yeah.
But I think to some degree it's mentally knowing too that if I would have gone and got a 12-pack, the problem would have went away
temporarily,
and then this other huge problem would have transpired from that.
Totally.
That I would have lost everything that I worked for, that I've been working for. It would have been a way because of that. So I try to stick to that kind of mental clarity going. Man, I'm having a really bad day. This just sucks. Okay, go for a run, test yourself, see if you could get, your best mile in. Start planning another hike. Anything to keep my mind occupied off of my demon, whether it be walking, running, planning my next race, planning my next hike, going through my gear, going, man, what do I need to replace? Do I need to upgrade or downgrade anything? Do I need to? And then the next thing you know, it's like that problem's gone. Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
I want to ask you something that it might be a hard question. I don't know, but like what do you do to maintain your long-term sobriety? Like, what happens if, God forbid, this, I'm not wishing this on you, but say you lost a leg and you couldn't hike or you couldn't run ever again. Like, and your main fallback thing to stay sober and stay mentally healthy is taken away from you. Like, do you have a backup plan in place there?
I don't really. I mean, I would like to think that mentally I'd be strong enough to maybe turn to, you know, like if I couldn't walk anymore, I couldn't run anymore, transferring that energy into talking about walking or running, or really gearing and focusing on more public speaking, more like trying to take that energy and put it into something else, whatever it may be that wasn't self-destructive, put it into a positive energy and kind of try to shine that way, or, you know, if that makes sense at all. Like,
Yeah.
But, you know, I haven't, obviously, I mean, I haven't thought about anything like that. Long-term sobriety is just, I just know that if I drink, I die. If I do opiates, I die. I won't even take, I went through back in July, I had some skin cancer on my shoulder. Went through a pretty extensive skin cancer surgery. And, you know, they wanted to give me oxycodone or whatever. And I said, no.
Yeah.
This is why you can't give you. They said, well, you're going to be in pain. I said, I don't like to take aspirin if I can help it. I don't want to band-aid something anymore. I want to fix the problem as opposed to just sitting. And that's all. I think that's all that alcohol and drugs are. They're a band-aid to something that's here.
Totally.
But they don't fix this. They're just a band-aid. And I think that with the humbleness, that, I mean, obviously long distance backpacking isn't going to be for everybody. Running 100 miles is not going to be for everybody.
Right.
And my point, I guess, that I'm trying to get across is that it has nothing to do really with the long distance hiking or the running 100 miles as much as it does with the mental clarity. It's that finding that positive outlet, which just so happens to be for me long distance backpacking and running, finding that positive outlet that instead of, you know, I mean, your kid might be crocheting, and, you know, by all means, if that keeps you from running to the bottle or to the needle or the pipe or whatever, then crochet some blankets. You know, if that's your outlet, cool. But just for me, it just happens to be the outside. It happens to be in nature and breathing the air and appreciating the little things that I really, you know, in all 50 years, I mean, I'll be 50 this year. It took me a long time to figure it out, but man, I sure do like a good, nice day outside. It's so taken for granted so much, you know?
I know, man. It's so nice when you can just cut things down to the simplicity of life. Just a warm, sunny day, a nice, easy hike, a nice climb up a mountain with a backpack. It's so simple and so rewarding. And especially when you've tasted the other life, you know what it's like to hustle around for drug money every day just so that you can stay well, so that, you know, you don't feel like shit. You know, sometimes you don't even want to do the drugs. You want to stop, but you feel horrible without them. So you have to get the drugs, you know?
Yeah.
And so when you've tasted that life, like, just cutting things down to a backpack and a hike is just so rewarding once you've come out on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's just amazing. And I think, you know, I always tell people, like, if I'm speaking at like trail days, or if there's a bunch of hikers here and I'm talking to them a little bit, you know, I say, man, you know, you get here and you get that can of soda and you go to the bathroom and take a hot shower, and, you know, you've been on the trail the last 600 miles, you know, and I say, you know, you can see the look on your face when you're sucking down the soda, how good, you know, how refreshing it is, how rewarding it is. And I said, can you imagine if everybody in the world went on a little hike and found that clarity, found that rewardingness, like where you just like take everything, like the simplest of things that you take for granted every day, and and the world's just bound to be a better place, I think.
Totally.
I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't have a choice. It's just like, if everybody was as humble as a thru-hiker was, or as a person at mile 86 at the aid station, chomping down a peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
The world would be a better
just,
place.
it just has to be. I mean, there's not just physics, and it's just, you know, and that's cool to me to think like that. Like, well, if we could just keep everybody that mentality, then it'd be awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Well, I'm curious, where do you want to take this project of yours? It's this business of yours. Like, it sounds like, you know, you want to help people that are struggling, and you want to encourage people to get out on the trails, whether that's hiking or running. But like, where do you see this thing a few years down the road?
Well, you know, I would like to, and I'm, you know, I'm not real good at the computer stuff. I'm not really good at networking and anything. And I'm kind of a slacker because I'm doing my own stuff. I know it sounds good, but so, you know, I'm working with a couple other people right now. One of them's a mental health professional, and I'm working with another partner, a friend, who's trying to help me kind of get out there a little bit, you know. Where I'd like to see it is we're working on some speaking events right now. You know, we're keeping it like a trail days. There's the Florida Trail Kickoff. There's a couple of race events that I'm going to do, like a free race speaking at. And then, like, eventually, like, like the long-term effect of this, I would really love to take a candidate out of recovery, maybe even like do some speaking at some prison for, you know, prisoners in recovery. In long term, to be able to take individuals, not necessarily on long distance, like, you know, an AT hike, maybe one day we'll see, you know, how it can. But just getting a group of people together and even taking them on an overnight backpacking trip, or just a trip like a point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one day, 20 miles, or, you know, a 2-day, 20-mile hike. And just kind of showing them the fundamentals, showing people that might not have never experienced running a 5K, but that has interest in that 5K, and just showing them like the community that's involved around that. And I think that's a huge part of, you know, recovery, is surrounding yourself too with, you know, with people that are like-minded as well. That,
yes, 100%.
For me, I mean, I run, you know, to be honest, my 5K is like in that 35 to 40-minute range. I'm not fast, and I'm not fast on pavement.
That's all right.
When I cross that finish line in the way back of the pack, probably maybe even dead last, they're still cheering for me. They're still patting me on the back when I come across the finish line. And the support in the community is still there.
Of course.
And, you know, it's the same with biking. It doesn't matter, man. You show up to the hostel, or you show up to camp at the end of the night. It doesn't matter if you walk 700 miles or if you walk 7 miles. You showed up at the camp, and now you're at camp, and now you're family.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think that kind of support could go a long way for people in recovery. Mm-hmm. That kind of positive support. And I mean, you know, we can delve into what it does for a person's self-esteem and stuff like that. I feel good when I cry, even though I know I'm not breaking the ribbon. I still feel good when I come across the finish line.
Oh yeah,
I feel, you know, I feel it. And that's more than a lot of people do.
Yeah, and exposing other people to that is so clutch, you know, and it's just a big part of service, which is a big thing that people in recovery end up doing because it makes them feel better. It makes them feel worthwhile. I'm curious, do you have like a support network of like close men that you're able to call if you're ever in a pinch and having bad thoughts, or something bad happened today and I just need somebody to talk to? Or do you see a therapist, or like, what do you do to maintain a clean mental slate?
Yeah, well, for me, I do have a therapist.
Okay.
And for me, I do well, I don't know, one of my partners in this trails and recovery, she is a mental health professional as well. And if I, it hasn't, been too many bad days in there, but if I am having a bad day, I reach out to her.
Good.
And that goes like on our Facebook page. I tell everybody, anybody, and I try to do that on my personal page, obviously on the Trails and Recovery page, on anything, like a lot of my social media outlets, that if anybody is out there feeling, I am 24/7 support. If anybody ever needed anybody to talk to about anything, it doesn't necessarily have to be bad. If they don't have anybody to talk to about something good, my number is posted everywhere, and I don't mind anytime, somebody needs something, then I'll be a shoulder for sure. So,
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, for sure. And I have people that I feel like that too, that I can call, friends, family. Even though family, I don't really call a whole lot. Like my mom, she just doesn't understand the recovery road.
Right. Same with my mom.
They just don't. They don't. I mean, they're there for love and support. They don't know what you're going through, But I have a network of friends too that have been in recovery that made it out too. Unfortunately, there's far more of us that didn't make it out. But I do have a close network of even some friends from back in the Grateful Dead days that I'm still in touch with, and they're in recovery, and they've been in recovery for the last, 12 years, 15 years, and if I'm having a bad day or something like that, and thankfully I haven't had things, I just. If I feel like I'm in a pissy mood or something like that, then I'll just go for a run, or I'll go for a walk, and that's the and it's working for me. I mean,
that's the best therapy right there. If you can tap into it, trying to explain to somebody who isn't into the outdoors, like if you go out for a walk or you go out for a run, it's going to make you feel better. And I've been on that other side too, where people are telling me that, and I'm down deep in my hole, and I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do is go outside for a walk. I'm feeling like shit today. Yeah, but it really is the thing that if you can force yourself to do it, you get some sunshine, walk, breathe deep, run if you can. You're going to feel so much better. But sometimes it's hard to relay that to people.
Slow. It really is. It's so hard, and especially if it just is your dream. And that's why I said, at first I was all about like, let's go. I'm like, well, that isn't everybody's dream. That isn't. Everybody's not gonna want to run a 5K. Everybody's not gonna want to go on a hike. Some people don't even want to go outside.
Yeah.
So that's where we need to channel into finding what they do want. What's their outlet gonna be?
Yeah.
If it's not and then how can we tie in the love from like the running and the hiking community? How can we tie it into this passion?
Right.
And
like you said, crocheting. If crocheting is your avenue to get you sober and keep you mentally healthy, then I support it. And I'm sure there's a crocheting group out there that can get your back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, whatever it is. I mean, there's and just finding that and it's channeling that is where you get in that mindset of going, man, I'm having a horrible day. I want to go to the casino, whatever, just hypothetical, whatever your and then going, nah, man, I got to finish up that blanket. My grandma's birthday's coming up. Or, it's finding that channeling outlet and trying to find positivity there to go, okay, now I don't want to do this anymore. Now my natural instinct, instead of grabbing a sixer, is hitting on my running shoes.
Yeah. Yep.
That's like my first instinct anymore, is not even thinking about wanting to drink. Like, it's not even like, I don't want to say so far past that, but in a sense, I'm so far past that. Like, I don't even think, like, I'm having a bad day. My instinct is still for running.
Yeah. Eventually
It's
the
not
desire
the
leaves you. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long have you been sober now, Boxcar?
I've been sober since 2012 from opiates. Now, alcohol took me a little bit longer, and I did relapse back in 2018. I lost my father. I went through a pretty nasty divorce, and I relapsed in September of 2018. Wound up in jail in September, drunk in public stuff. It was bar fight type stuff. Nothing that was really on my permanent record, but nevertheless. And then I got sober. I got sober February of 2019 from alcohol, and I haven't had one drop of alcohol since 2019. Nice. Prior to that, prior to my little relapse when I lost my father, I had been sober since 2015. Mm-hmm. So, and then I've been sober since 2015, and then I had, I lost a parent, went off the deep end with the divorce, and I forgot about tying on my running shoes.
Yeah, but you came back.
I did.
Coming back is the important part, I mean, slipping up is part of the process, relapse, unfortunately, is part of recovery,
It is. Yeah.
When someone's getting clean, it's statistically, they're almost guaranteed to relapse, like AA and NA really only help like 10% of people who walk through those doors, but those numbers are bigger than any other numbers, statistically speaking. We're miracles to be sitting here having this conversation,
definitely.
Coming back is the most important part. I do a little bit of meditation, and just from what I've learned in practicing meditation, like when your mind wanders, it's okay. That's part of the process. You just have to bring it back to that stillness and breath and presence. And then your mind's going to wander again, and that's okay. And you just bring it back to that breath again. And it's the same thing with, it's the same thing with addiction, man. I mean, you may fall off the wagon for a day or a month, but as long as you come back and stay on the program, that's the most important part.
And that's and I think I knew back in 2018, I knew when I went to get that first six-pack or whatever, I knew that it was bad. I knew where I was going to wind up prior to ever putting it. I knew, and I think I was so far into having to sign, like I said, I'd lost my dad, having to sign the papers over for him to go to hospice, and then the woman of my dreams, thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with her. And it's just an excuse. It's nothing, I think I was so overwhelmed with grief that I almost, even though I knew how bad it was going to be, I wanted it. I wanted it.
That's the sickness. That's the alcoholic mindset. You're like, even if you know, like, even if I'm going to end up in jail in a week from now, I know where this is going to go, but you know what? I just have to go to the liquor store and do this thing. It's a sickness, man. It really is.
And I knew, and I knew that if I put my hiking shoes on, that I could have jumped on a Greyhound bus and drove to the AT and went for a hike. I knew that too, but like with addiction, I mean, that was the one thing that I wanted was to, I wanted to self-destruction because I was in such a grief-stricken despair that,
Yeah.
you know, this depression at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I get it.
yeah, and you know, I've discussed it with my therapist too. That you know, that's not uncommon. But that's the drug addict to you know, in trauma situations like that, that is when they usually do relapse. And you know, it's not a, but I had something beeping at me. I don't know if my headphones are dying or can you still hear me, Adam?
I can still hear you for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Well, listen, man, where can people find you and how can people support your mission?
Hey, you know, the Facebook page is just Facebook/Trails of Recovery.
Trails of Recovery.
Yeah, exactly. If you do Google from my personal page, that has my contact information on it as well. It's Boxcar Hikes. And then on Instagram, it's the same thing. It's trails_of_recovery.
Okay. I'll put a link in the notes. So that, Boxcar Hikes.
Yeah, that's my personal pages. That's like, you know, my personal pages. You can reach out to me. I even think my phone number's listed there. For anybody who ever feels like they need anybody to talk to, I'm always available. I make time for anybody who needs a shoulder, for sure. So, cool. But yeah, you can find my information, all the stuff like that on there. Have some YouTube videos up, nothing really elaborate, because I'm not good with that stuff at all. But I do have some of my long distance hikes listed on my Boxcar Hikes page. Some kind of testimonies and stuff on Trails of Recovery page. Like I said, though, I'm not very computer savvy, so don't expect no professional video quality or anything. But
no.
I try to keep my Facebook page there. I try to keep it updated at least once a week with kind of what's going on with us, what we have in the plans, you know, anything new and exciting coming up, and we definitely try to keep everybody updated on that. And, obviously, Instagram for our pictures and stuff like that. So,
Yep. Awesome. Cool, man. Well, I will put a link to all that stuff in the show notes. And listen, man, just thanks for coming on and thanks for what you're trying to do, man. I mean, you've come through this thing, you know, you come through this hard thing and you're just here trying to help other people going through similar things. And I appreciate that, man. I mean, that's pretty much what we're trying to do too. And we need more people like you just to shine your light, you know, and sometimes that's all you're doing is just shining your light, but you never know who's paying attention. You never know who's listening. So just keep doing what you're doing, man.
I appreciate that. It's just showing people that, hey, I was, if you could see how far in the bottom of the barrel I was, then you would have never thought that I could have come back. But,
100%. Well, in closing, man, what would you say to anybody who is maybe struggling? Maybe they're wondering if they have a drinking problem, or maybe they know they have a drinking problem and they just don't know how to navigate the next step. Or, you know, there was a time in my life I just couldn't stop drinking, man. I just couldn't stop, you know, and I would tell myself, tonight I'm going to stop, tomorrow I'm going to stop, and I just couldn't stop. I mean, what would you say to that person that's maybe listening and struggling?
Man, I don't, you know, I had a fellow reach out to me the other day, a hiking buddy that I had met. He's a bad alcoholic. And he said, man, I want to hang out with you, but I don't want to hang out because I've been drinking a lot. And I said, well, that's okay, man. You know, he said, I just love it. He said, I love it so much. I love this kid. And I said, hey, man, I'll hang out with you. So, you know, what I would tell him is just not to give up. Just, you know, what worked for me, you know, I was lucky enough. I had a Alabama preacher who's a mentor, who's like-minded like me. And, you know, that path worked for me. It might not work for everybody. I would just say never to give up. Just never give up. I mean, you know, even on the bad days, even on the good days, and just, you know, if you're thinking you have a problem, then you probably do have a problem. But, you know, I wouldn't necessarily try to give any advice. I'd just be an ear to listen to.
There you go.
You know, I'd be somebody to listen to, and you know, if they wanted my advice, then I would give them my truthful opinion. But really, I'd just listen.
Yeah,
you know, I think that's good.
That's a fantastic answer, because realistically, most people aren't going to change unless they really, really want to. And unfortunately, most people have to hit a real bottom in order to really want to change, to hit it. You know, they have to hit that low rock bottom, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And some people's bottoms are lower than others. And, you know, luckily mine wasn't the lowest in the world, you know, but I finally wanted to make that change. And it's like, I knew I had to do something, or something bad was going to happen. Like I was probably going to die. And, you just have, sometimes you can't talk someone into getting sober, you know, as much as we'd like to. They're not ready. They're just not ready, you know, and you got to let them almost live it out. Yeah.
That's, I have an aunt who's my cousin. He's in prison now, and I think he's doing like 7 years or something. But you know, came from essentially a golden spoon. You know, never wanted for anything, never needed for anything, and he took a heroin, and he's been to very reputable rehabilitation centers throughout for years and years, in and out of rehab and jails. And my aunt said, what can we do? And she's crying to me, you know, and she's like, what can we do? And I said, Aunt Mother, you can't really do nothing until he wants to. You can't, you know, I said, you just don't give up on him. That's the biggest, just don't give up on him.
Yeah.
You know, but he's, you know, you're just, you know, that's all, you just got to be there for him. As much as you do pushing the trails and running and everything else down their throat, you just got to be there for them and hope and pray, you know, for my faith, you know, right? And that's about it.
Yeah, 100%.
You.
Well, listen, man, thank you so much for doing this. It was a great conversation, and stay in touch, man. Please stay in touch. Like if you ever need anything from me, reach out, dude. If you need somebody to talk to, reach out. My line is open to you anytime. And to anybody listening, but yeah, Boxcar said his number is right on his Facebook page. Call him up. He's there to talk. So he's been through it. He's been through it all. He knows what it's all about. So if you need help, reach out to this guy, and you know, he might not be able to totally, you know, and sometimes, you know, people will reach out to me and I might not even have the right answers, but I might have the right direction to point them in. Like, look, man, you're going through something that I've never experienced, but I know somebody that has, so I can at least point you to this person who might be able to help you better than me, you know? So even if I can't help you, I'll do my best to set you on track. But yeah, and same thing with Boxcar, man. Reach out to this guy. He is legit.
Nice.
Well, cool, brother. Great talk. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much.
Well, just keep doing what you're doing, brother. Absolutely.
Yes,
you're welcome on the show anytime. And stay in touch, man.
Yeah.
Cool, brother.
Sure, definitely. Awesome.
Okay.
Man. Thanks so much, Adam.
You got it. Take care, William. Have a good one.
Yep. You too, bud.